You guys ready to go? The cosmological argument. This is the argument that many say points back to the big... Oh, now some people are going here, you know, Frank, we're Christians. We don't believe in the Big Bang. You guys don't believe in the Big Bang? I believe in the Big Bang. I just know who banged it. In fact, the evidence for the Big Bang is quite good. These are even atheists who admit this. This is Stephen Hawking, who says almost everyone now believes that the universe and time itself had a beginning at the Big Bang. Now, Hawking tries to come up with another explanation other than God, but he fails. He knows that space-time and matter had a beginning. A colleague of his, Alexander Vilenkin, a Russian cosmologist, put it this way. He said, with the proof now in place, cosmologists can no longer hide behind the possibility of a past eternal universe. There is now no escape. They have to face the problem of a cosmic beginning. Two interesting words in here. First word, proof. Very unusual for scientists to use the word proof. Normally they say the evidence points to, the evidence suggests. When they say proof, they think that the evidence is quite strong, and indeed it is. Space, time, and matter had a beginning. The other interesting word is the word problem. Why is there a problem that there was a cosmic beginning? Yes, because that gets too close to the G word, God. They don't want to go to God, so they will do everything they can to avoid God. In fact, Einstein himself, who came up with the theory of general relativity that said space, time, and matter were correlative, that they came into existence together, Einstein didn't like that when he developed the theory back in 1916. He wanted the universe to be eternal, so it didn't need a God. So you know what the great Einstein did in order to avoid an absolute beginning? He put a fudge factor into his equations to avoid it, called the Cosmological Constant. And in order to do this, the great Einstein divided by zero. Now, what are you told in third grade? Never divide by zero. You can go straight to hell for that. Well, the great Einstein did it in order to avoid God. Later, he repented of that because he knew the evidence was so strong that the universe had a beginning. If it had a beginning, it must have had a beginner. In fact, this man, Robert Jastrow, was an agnostic astronomer of great credentials. And a number of years ago, he wrote a book called God and the Astronomers. On page 1 in the book, he says, I'm an agnostic on religious matters. What does that mean? He means he doesn't know whether God exists or not. He says, I don't know. But here's what he says on page 14 of the book. He says, the astronomical evidence leads to a biblical view of the origin of the world. The essential element in the astronomical and biblical accounts of Genesis is the same. In other words, he's saying, when you look at the science and you look at the Bible, they're the same. He went on later to say that there are what I or anyone would call supernatural forces at work is now, I think, a scientifically proven fact. Wait a minute. Why would an agnostic astronomer say it's scientifically proven that supernatural forces are at work? Why couldn't nature have created the universe? Nature didn't exist. That's right, there was no nature. There was no space, no matter, no time, and then it all leapt into existence out of absolutely nothing. So if space, time, and matter had a beginning, the cause must transcend space, time, and matter. In other words, the cause must be spaceless, timeless, and immaterial. Now, when you think of a spaceless, timeless, immaterial cause, who do you think of? God. In fact, it wasn't just Jastrow who said these sort of things. Every one of these guys I'm about to show you are Nobel Prize winners in physics. These are people that helped discover the evidence that the universe had a beginning. And by the way, all the evidence is in our book. I don't have time to get into it now. But here's what these gentlemen said. Arno Penzias said, the best data we have concerning the Big Bang are exactly what I would have predicted had I had nothing to go on but the 5 books of Moses, the Psalms, and the Bible as a whole. His colleague, Robert Wilson, said, certainly there was something that set it all off. I can't think of a better theory of the origin of the universe to match Genesis. George Smoot, who taught at UCal Berkeley, put it this way, there is no doubt that a parallel exists between the Big Bang as an event and the Christian notion of creation from nothing. Now, If the universe had a beginning, then it must have had a beginner. Either no one created something out of nothing, that's the atheistic view, or someone created something out of nothing, which is the theistic view. Now, which view is more reasonable? No one created something out of nothing, or someone created something out of nothing? I was at Texas A&M last year, and during the Q&A, an atheist stood up and said, "Oh, I think number one is more reasonable." I said, "Number one?" I said, "Let's look at number two for just a second." Number two says someone created something out of nothing. Now that's a miracle, right? But at least you have a miracle worker. You've got someone. You've got someone creating something out of nothing. Number one is a miracle with no miracle worker. You've got no one. How is that reasonable? That doesn't make any sense. I said, "You're denying the law of causality." What's the law of causality? That every effect has a cause. It doesn't say everything has a cause. There's got to be something that's eternal. There's got to be an uncaused first cause out there. Either the uncaused first cause is the universe or something outside the universe. All the evidence points to the fact that the universe had a beginning. Therefore, the uncaused first cause must be outside the universe. It must be spaceless, timeless, and immaterial. I said to the atheist that night, I said, the law of causality is the foundation of all science. If you want to give up on the law of causality, you've got to give up on science. Why? What do scientists do? They search for causes. What particular cause caused this particular effect? If you want to give up on the law of causality and say that the ultimate effect didn't have a cause, you might as well just give up on all science, because the ultimate effect is the universe. Where'd it come from? I said, to show you how seriously everybody in this room takes the law of causality, there is nobody sitting here right now that as you sit here, you are currently worried that a hippopotamus has appeared out of nothing in your dorm room and is currently defecating on the carpet. Right? You don't worry about that. You don't worry about it. You don't worry about that as we sit here, right? You're not worried that a raging Bengal tiger is going to appear right here out of nothing and start devouring people. You don't worry about that. Why? Because you know that things don't pop into existence out of nothing without a cause. Same thing is true about the universe. In fact, here's a question to ask an atheist. If there is no God, why is there something rather than nothing at all? If there is no God, why does anything exist? If the atheist says, well, the universe has always existed, you can give him the evidence that the universe hasn't always existed, which is all in the book. It had a beginning. If it had a beginning, it must have had a beginner.